You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's March the 4th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, your cannabis and psychedelic news source found here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. Good morning, Green Irene. How are you?
I'm doing great, Al. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good. Now I feel like I'm looking at you instead of looking back at you.
Correct, exactly. So I imagine that might happen almost every show. And talking about every show, I just like to, as far as news-wise, I'd like to announce that Green Irene will be joining me here every Monday, bringing everybody the news. So welcome aboard. Green Irene's, she's been with Pace Radio Network for quite some time, and she's had a couple of different shows on the network, and presently does not. But I need a spot right here, and Green Irene is a past reefer reporter and knows how to do the news.
And I'm here.
and you're here, exactly.
And it's kind of, it's really cool getting back to the news, because when I went away from being a reefer reporter into a bunch of other projects, because we've been staying busy with CBG and stuff, I lost track of what was happening in the industry. So it's really cool coming back. It's like, oh, really? That's happening? Oh, that's happening?
Yeah. I know Glenn. He was the same thing. He was never followed the news until he got involved with doing this news broadcast. And he says he learns something every show. And, quite often I do as well. So that's why
there's always more to learn, right?
That's right. That's why it's got the word educational news in the title, right?
I love it.
All righty. Shall we get started with our first story of the day? Headline says, Thai health minister predicts recreational cannabis ban by December.
Yeah, Thailand's health minister announced plans to make recreational cannabis use illegal again by year end, while maintaining its legality for medicinal purposes. And that's under the recently proposed legislation. It would be illegal to use cannabis recreationally, but cannabis use for medicinal purposes would remain legal. People caught consuming cannabis will face fines up to 60,000 BAHT, which is $1,700 US, I guess. And people caught illegally marketing or retailing cannabis products or paraphernalia would face up to a year in jail and fines up to 100,000 baht, which is $2,800.
Yeah, exactly. The health minister, Cholnan Surko, recently said that without the law to regulate cannabis, it would be misused. And he goes on to say that cannabis misuse has a negative impact on Thai children, and that in the long run, it can lead to hard drugs.
Yeah. Well, what do you say, right? After lawmakers revealed their intent to crack down on Thailand's booming cannabis industry, many cannabis company owners and other operators said they were preparing lawsuits to protect the industry.
Thailand was the first Southeast Asian country to enact significant cannabis reforms, legalizing medical cannabis in 2018 and then fully decriminalizing cannabis in 2022. The new reform stopped short of actually regulating the country's newest industry, and the cannabis market value quickly ballooned in size and value climbing to $800 million within 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So this will be something we're going to have to pay attention to what's happening in Thailand, because that's a big change, right?
It is. And I remember when it was announced, and they gave away 1 million seeds, and people kept going on about it being legal and all that, but I was reading reports, through the news that was talking about it was legal for medical use, right? And then all of a sudden, the government decriminalized, and it just
And
But they
then
had they got a new government, so it just shows a change in government can make a change in your cannabis policy in your country.
That's right. So I definitely have to be aware.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. All right. Oops. I got the wrong story lined up. I just caught that. I don't want to throw you off. I'd hate to have that happen. Yes, that doesn't happen very often, but I want to make sure that I get the right story for you. So there we go. Okay, so the next headline says, this comes from the Spokesman Review. The majority of marijuana waste in Washington ends up in the landfill. New legislation aims to redirect it in the landfill.
Well, you got to read the story. Washington's cannabis growers could soon generate new revenue and help reduce the greenhouse gases by selling plant waste with a bill that passed the House on Thursday. Stalks, stems, leaves, and roots of cannabis plants that aren't considered dangerous waste under the law often end up in landfills producing methane gas as they decompose.
Legislation now awaiting a signature from Governor Jay Inslee hopes to redirect cannabis waste towards new product creation and composting. The bill would allow cannabis cultivators and processors to sell plant byproducts containing less than 0.3% THC to the public. Repurchased cannabis wouldn't be used for consumption. Buyers could use plant waste for composting and various hemp-related products, including hempcrete for construction or inhalation, and hemp fiber, which comes from the plant stem, for textiles, ropes, and annual bedding. Hey, I like this.
Right? So Blue Roots Cannabis, which is a producer and processor in Spokane County, disposes of around 2,200 pounds of cannabis waste a month, filling a large 40-yard container with a mixture of ground cannabis byproducts and other organic materials. Operation Manager Seth Schaumburg said, usually we mix it with dirt, cocoa, wood chips, all kinds of, organic material, he said. There isn't anything recoverable once it's been ground and mixed like that.
This mixture picked up by Spokane Solid Waste Services, which comes with a $600 price tag. Now, going into their 8th year of operation, Blue Roots Cannabis operates 2 large steel warehouses with a 3rd under construction to span its growing facilities. One warehouse is directly solely to plant cultivation, while the other offices at the front and has a growing manufacturing and trimming services at the back.
He says this doesn't do our society any good to be continuing to fill the landfills, especially when it's being mixed with non-organic garbage piling up or being put into plastic contractor bags before it's dumped, said Schaumburg. Cannabis waste is required by law to be ground and mixed with at least 50% of other materials like kitty litter, sawdust, or wood chips to be properly disposed of, which further contributes to the amount of organic waste heading to the landfill and the amount of methane gas emitted, said Heather Trim, Executive Director at Zero Waste Washington.
So does it not emit, I guess it's being reused, right? Okay. With almost 1,000 cannabis growers in Washington and around 500 to 1,000 pounds of green waste needs to be disposed of every week during the growing season, she says. This year's bill also aligns with 222 law aiming to reduce methane emissions by diverting 75% of organic materials from landfill by 2030.
Right. So to sell the plant byproducts, they cannot be considered dangerous waste by state law, meaning any discarded or unwanted substances that may contain pesticides, have toxic properties, or are flammable cannot be sold. Sales must be open to the public without discrimination, and a notification must be sent to the Liquor and Cannabis Board and the State Department of Agriculture, detailing the quantity and price of the waste, as well as the purchaser's name or organization. If the bill is signed, If the bill
Go
is
ahead.
if the bill is signed into law, Schomburg said they would be interested in exploring the possibility of selling their cannabis waste or redirecting it for composting purposes so that it doesn't continue filling up the landfill.
It would be nice to see the legislators start to give more detail to some of the cannabis policies that we have in order to give us the opportunity to better rectify the issues that we face, Schomburg says. And on the House floor, Rep. Shelley Kloba says the bill creates a circular economy by benefiting growers who would generate new revenue, supporting buyers who plan to repurchase the byproducts and aiding the environment by reducing the landfill waste and methane emissions. Rep. Leonard Christian voted no because of his childhood experience with cannabis. Huh?
Well, that's odd. His mother would often leave Christian and his siblings home while she went cross-country trucking, giving one of them money for food. The sibling would use that money for cannabis, and Christian's only opportunity to eat was at school, he said. I've seen it wreck a lot of lives over the years, Christian told the Spokesman Review. It's just not for me, and I'm not going to vote for the cannabis bill. Therapy, my friend, therapy.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's what happens, right?
He says since amendments. Go ahead.
Why would you be against, taking they must have been read against the legalization effort, because I don't see why they would be against, repurposing cannabis.
Right. I mean, the repurposing of cannabis, especially of cannabis waste. We're talking hemp ropes, hempcrete. We're talking, yeah. I mean, there's so many benefits to this. It's
clothing,
nice
textiles.
Yes. Yeah. It's nice to see that. And we've been saying this for a while, that we've got to do something with all this excess, right? Not just the excess cannabis waste, but the packaging as well. We've talked about all of it for some time now, and it's definitely going to
Makes sense.
It does. It makes sense.
All right. On to our next story.
I think so, because this fella,
headline in this story from CBS News says that Maryland dispensary fined $26,000 for selling cannabis retrieved from the dumpster.
What? Yeah, so this is a little bit different than the waste situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know, but still, it's cannabis in the dump.
Cannabis in the dump. Yeah, a Maryland dispensary has been fined $26,000 for selling cannabis that sat in a dumpster for 2 days, according to a consent order from the Maryland Cannabis Administration. According to the consent order, 224 grams of cannabis were thrown into a dumpster outside Curio's Far and Daughter dispensary, where it sat there for 41 hours and 9 minutes.
Surveillance footage showed 3 dispensary employees retrieving 4 boxes containing the prepackaged products from the dumpster. I would imagine that's how they saw them taking it in, so that's how they probably got it right down to those 9 minutes.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, more footage showed another employee then repackaged the cannabis, removing them from the original boxes and placing them in plastic bags before storing them inside a vault. The employee informed an investigator from MCA that the cannabis had to be placed in the plastic bags because the original packages were covered in a liquid substance acquired from the dumpster. Oh.
In an email, an inventory manager said he advised that the product be destroyed as it violates several compliance requirements, but management insisted on not losing profit. Then the location sold the product between July 28th and August 3rd of 2023, raking in a total of $3,174.50 in sales.
Wow. Wow. That's an awful lot, eh?
It is.
Yeah. The manager employment at Far and Daughter was terminated on or about August the 20th, according to the order. In an email statement, a spokesperson for Curio said the company prides itself on relationships with its customers and employees.
Yeah, the aforementioned product was inside sealed jars within sealed boxes, and it is undisputed that no outside material ever breached the jars or touched the product, the statement said. Curio also said that they've conducted an internal investigation and that non-adherence to safety and compliance requirements is not taken lightly nor tolerated.
Oh. And it goes on to say, in addition to the $26,000 fine, the company was ordered to submit its green waste logs for monthly reviews by the MCA, submit its scale calibration and cleaning logs for monthly review, and retrain staff on green waste procedures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. All righty. That's
I don't know. I thought that was going to take a whole different route. Like they're throwing it into the dumpster and then sliding it to Buddy behind the garbage cans, and he's running down the road with it. You know, that's kind of how I saw that story going. But
out the back door type stuff. No, no, but it's you know, they are right. It was in, you know, 2 other packages before, like, you know, it was in a jar and so on and so forth. So that liquid stuff that got on the external boxes wouldn't actually have gotten that contents. It's just the thought that, you know, this stuff was sitting in a dumpster, and then they turned around and sold it. What they say, it was 226 grams, so it's half a pound. They sold half a pound for $3,100.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Crazy, isn't it?
That's crazy. Yeah, exactly. All right, on to our next story. Here we go. And the headline on this one from Olean Times Herald says that New York plans steps to take down illegal cannabis storefronts.
So this is interesting. In Albany, New York, state is teaming with legal cannabis retailers, including conditional adult use retail dispensaries, licensees, to take more steps in shutting down the illegal cannabis market. Governor Kathy Hochul's office says unlicensed cannabis businesses have continued to open and operate throughout the state, often selling untested products and creating nuisances in communities. Further, these storefronts have stymied the growth of New York's legal industry and the retailers operating them.
Yeah. New York must take action to close illicit cannabis storefronts continuing to open and operate across the state, Hochul said in a news release late last week. Strengthening New York's equitable cannabis industry and protecting the hardworking small business owners operating in the legal market are top priorities, and the best way to accomplish those goals is by expediting the shutdown of unlicensed shops. Hochul's executive budget includes a plan to broaden the authority of the Office of the Cannabis Management and local government agencies to padlock stores selling cannabis without a license. This proposal will strengthen enforcement authority, expedite the closure of unlicensed shops, and deter illicit activity.
So basically, Hochul's plan will expand the powers of the OCM to streamline padlocking of illicit shops. It will authorize local governments to execute OCM padlock orders to ensure swift action and close the unlicensed dispensaries. And it will establish local registries of licensed cannabis businesses to assist and empower local governments, including New York City, to padlock unlicensed businesses through their own laws and resources.
They tried that in Toronto and stuff.
I think they did, right?
They did, yeah. And one of the places, they put the cement blocks in front of the entrance, and they operated from behind the cement blocks.
Yeah, so I mean, where there's a will, there's a way, and if people are determined, they will. So this is just one effort that they're taking an illegal stance.
Exactly.
Is just basically saying this is what we're going to try doing. In addition to that, social media and big tech companies have aided in the promotion of unlicensed stores and have knowingly allowed illegal storefronts to advertise online, undermining New York's efforts to build a safe and equitable cannabis industry. So as part of her announcement, Hochul is calling on tech companies to prohibit the promotion of unlicensed storefronts selling potentially dangerous products on their platforms.
New York State leads the nation in its commitment to equity in cannabis, OCM Executive Director Chris Alexander says. To protect what we are building, we have to make sure that our legal dispensaries have a real shot to thrive against the illicit operators. The stakes are too high, and it's time we close those down and hold tech companies accountable. Several members of the state's CAURD card program have expressed the urgent need to shut down the illegal cannabis operators. These licensees were the first retail dispensaries to open for legal adult use cannabis sales in New York State. There we
Right.
go. So, and you know, we see the same thing going on here in Canada, where
that's right.
Where they go at the trying to shut down the illegal dispensaries. So, all right, we got one more story before we go to break.
Okay.
And this
that
time
is
we're going to head over to Marijuana Moment, where the headline there says, Oregon lawmakers sending bill overturning voter-approved drug decriminalization law to governor's desk. This comes to us from the Marijuana Moment.
So right away, it's we need to put a stake in the heart of decriminalization because it's not compassionate to say drugs are a choice and it's okay if you make that choice. I'm not sure who said that. The legislators' proposal to overhaul the state's response to fentanyl addiction and overdose crisis cleared a major hurdle on Friday with a passage by Senate. The bipartisan vote of 21 to 8 came a day after a similar 51 to 7 endorsement in the House, making the end of a long legislative journey that started last fall. House Bill 4002 now goes to Governor Tina Kotek's office for her signature. The governor's office had no immediate comment about the bill, which strikes a compromise between Republicans and Democrats and comes after widespread disgruntlement over Measure 110 and a move to repeal that voter-approved law that made Oregon the first state in the nation to decriminalize drugs.
The bill will dial that back, enacting a new misdemeanor charge for drug possession, with the goal of encouraging people to enter treatment programs rather than go to jail. Drug users would only face jail time if they violated the terms of their prohibition. Let me get that out of the way. I can't stress enough that inaction is not an option, says Majority Leader Kate Lieber and co-chair of the Joint Addiction Committee that shepherded the bill through both chambers.
The bill's passage disappointed advocates who successfully pushed for a drug decriminalization in 2020. When voters passed Measure 110, the proposal would keep intact the marijuana revenue for addiction services and programs in Measure 110, which has led to the distribution of more than $276 million for treatment, harm reduction, mentoring services, and housing programs. Democrats and Republicans reached the deal with input from police chiefs, sheriffs, and district attorneys after law enforcement raised concerns that an initial proposal with a low-level misdemeanor was just too soft. In this bill, a person would face up to 6 months in jail if their probation were revoked. In the earlier version, the low-level misdemeanor carried potential jail time of up to 30 days. People would be offered an early release from jail if they entered inpatient or outpatient treatment.
Senate Minority Leader Tim Cobb praised the bill as a solid compromise that's needed to prevent people from committing suicide while waiting for scarce treatment. Goes on to say that we need to put a stake in the heart of the decriminalization because it is not compassionate to say drugs are a choice and it's okay if you make that choice. He says it's not okay. Some people end up there, but a lot of people end up there not out of choice. Trauma, so on and so forth.
Well, that's right. And not to mention, some form of trauma usually brings them there.
It wasn't their choice to be abused when they were young.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Measure 110 enacted a system of $100 citations for those caught with small quantities of drugs that a person could avoid if they obtained a health assessment. But the system failed to work, with suspects ignoring the fines and pursuit of treatment. So it didn't take long for the police and the public to turn against Measure 110. And by last year, a majority said they would support repealing all or part of Measure 110, which was a well-founded group behind a ballot initiative to repeal much of Measure 110, released a statement Thursday saying if Kotek signs HB 4002, they'll drop their campaign.
But an Oregon nonprofit that advocates on behalf of incarcerated people has threatened to sue over a technicality to try to prevent the proposal from going into effect. And civil rights advocates, including the ACLU of Oregon, pushed back hard against the proposal, saying that Oregon would disproportionately harm people of color.
Right. So opponents in the Senate echoed that concern, saying that the bill would change the system without adequate treatment programs in place. Senator Michael Dembrow of Portland says, I remain concerned that it is taking us down a potentially dangerous path if it doesn't work out in the way that it's hoped for.
The penalties for drug possession will take effect in September. But Bembro and Senator Floyd Prozaski warned that the existing shortage of public defenders will only grow worse with the increased caseload. In its current form, there are just too many question marks, Debrow says. 3 Republican and 5 Democrat senators voted against the measure.
Yeah. Under the bill, counties would have the option, but not a mandate, to set up new state-funded deflection programs that offer people a chance to avoid charges after an initial encounter with the police officer. And so far, 23 of Oregon's 36 counties have signaled their intent to set up the new programs. Defendants in all Oregon counties would have additional opportunities to enter treatment programs and have their records erased.
I'm going to have to end this article because it's just jumping all over the place.
Okay. Well, the bottom line is, bottom line is the Senate passed $211 million funding through a separate bill, 5204. And this package includes about $85 million in shovel-ready projects across the state. Yeah, it's hard when they've got all that advertising in the news articles, because then it just keeps glitching, eh? And it makes it very difficult to read or to share.
Sure does. All right, off to break we go. It's time to hear from our sponsors, and for us to take a break, you're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Education and News here on paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
And you're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. And we're back. You want to switch us? Oh, we don't need to switch around, do we? Okay, good. All right, Green Irene, we got 5 more stories to cover. We'll see if we can get through them all before the end of the broadcast. And the first one comes to us from Marijuana Moment. Vermont lawmakers consider removing psilocybin legalization provision from the Psychedelic Study Group bill. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Well, a Vermont legislative panel continued its consideration on Thursday of a bill that would legalize psilocybin in the state and establish a work group on how to further regulate psychedelics for therapeutic use. Though members of the Senate Health and Welfare Committee took no formal action on the measure, Section 114, they heard invited testimony and signaled their openness to making a number of changes to the underlying proposal, including removing the legalization portion and instead making that an issue for the work group to study.
It could be that decriminalization is going to get in the way of therapeutic use, says Senator Ginny Lyons. What we're looking for is the value of therapeutic use.
Right.
Other possible changes to the bill raised by lawmakers during the hearing included adjusting the membership of the work group, for example, to remove members of the legislature and add a representative from the University of Vermont Medical School, something Lyons suggested during the committee's initial consideration of the bill last month.
Right. Additional members of the panel would include representatives from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, the State of Professional Regulation, and the advocacy group Decriminalization. As introduced, the legislation would remove psilocybin from the state's list of prohibited drugs, effectively legalizing the psychedelic fungi. It also calls for the establishment of a psychedelic therapy advisory working group that would be required to examine the use of psychedelics to improve physical and mental health and to make recommendations regarding the establishment of a state program. So like those that are being implemented in Oregon and Colorado.
On the House side, lawmakers, where did you go? You jumped, screen. On the House side, lawmakers considered companion bill H371 during a House Judiciary Committee hearing last May. At Thursday's Senate hearing, lawmakers heard a testimony from 3 psychedelic experts, including Charles McLean, the Associate Dean of Primary Care at the University of Vermont, who gave a broad overview of the history and science of psychedelics.
He also shared the results of a survey of hundreds of primary care physicians in Vermont. Doctors responded that they generally believe psychedelics are medically promising, albeit potentially overhyped and not particularly harmful to one's health. Majorities did, however, expressed concerns about youth access and potentially increased driving risks. Specifically, 56% of respondents said they believe psychedelics have a high therapeutic potential, while 40% said they were neutral. Only 4% of respondents disagreed. More than 3
I have to
in
find where you
4.
were again because my screen jumped.
Oh, that's okay. More
Keep
than
going.
3 in 4, 77% said they were
Yeah,
interested in learning more about psychedelics, and almost 2/3, so 64%, said they agreed or strongly agreed that researching the risks and benefits of psychedelics should be a high priority.
Oh, I thought I was at the right spot. No, I can't find you. I've lost you.
Okay, I'll carry on till
Nope.
you find me.
And my screen. Yeah, you carry on, and I'm just going to shut
Okay.
that off and you read on because it's just jumping all over the place. It's marijuana moments hasn't been like that before, so this is new to me too. So go ahead.
It's a lot of the excess advertising. So more than 7 in 10.
Yeah.
More than 7 in 10 surveyed doctors, so 71%, said they were moderately to very concerned about psychedelic use among youth. However, while more than 61% were concerned about driving safety, only 17%, meanwhile, felt that psychedelics are deleterious to one's health. Catherine McLean, a former researcher at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine who studied under the late psychedelics pioneer Roland Griffith, shared her own experience with psilocybin, without which, she said, I'm not sure that I would be alive today.
Yeah.
Utilizing the substances, she said, creates the risk of further harm. She goes on to say, I've always had a fear of what would happen if something criminal came out of my own desire to ease my suffering, she told the panel. It's a concern I live with every day, and I know that other parents and caregivers think about this, What would happen if I have to treat my headaches, but someone found out that I was using an illegal drug? I would love to remove that fear and concern for people who are just trying to feel better, she added.
Yeah, for sure. We went through that with the cannabis end of things, people wanting to feel better by using cannabis and patients having to fight for access to it. It still happens today.
Absolutely. The former researcher also noted that she's worked with people who have been harmed by psychedelic practitioners. She said her enthusiasm is only slightly dimmed by these examples, explaining that much of the problem resulted from victims being unable to step forward. Some of these women who have been harmed either sexually or emotionally or financially by unscrupulous practitioners, those folks have licenses, she said. They were medical doctors. They were therapists. They had review boards. They should have been following the ethics of their profession, but they weren't.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, no. Yeah, charge those guys. Get them out of it. Get them out of the service for sure. Yeah, abusing people while under treatment.
So ultimately, in the end, because I'm just going to scooch down to the end, in other drug-related actions this session, Vermont's House also recently passed a bill to legalize and fund safe consumption sites, part of a pilot program aimed at the ongoing epidemic of drug-related deaths, right?
Yeah.
And it's another attempt by lawmakers to allow the facilities following Governor Phil Scott's veto of a 22 measure that would have established a task force to create a plan to open the sites. Now, lawmakers in states across the U.S. are gearing up for what has already proved to be an active year for psychedelic reform in 2024.
Oh, yeah. It already is. It already has been and continues to be.
Well, that's what it says.
If we get out of the states on the psychedelic end of things. So
this week, for example, the Arizona Senate passed a bipartisan bill that would legalize psilocybin service centers where people can receive psychedelic in a medically supervised setting. A Missouri Senate committee approved a bill this week that would legalize the medical use for veterans. The governor of New Mexico newly enacted a resolution requesting that state officials research therapeutic potential. The Connecticut legislator, Joint Judiciary Committee, filed a bill to decriminalize it. Illinois Senator, Alaska House, lawmakers in Hawaii, New York lawmakers, and Indiana House lawmaker.
The list just keeps going. It just goes on.
That's right. That's right. So the governor of
That's what. If it's already been a busy year, you can just imagine what if they're predicting the next year. It's even going to be busier.
Right. It just keeps getting. It just keeps growing. And again, I love the fact I'm one of those people who has fears. I haven't fears of a law, and I had a lot of fear about psilocybin to begin with. Now, with all this research and education that's out there, all the information is power. I mean, it's far more natural than 99.9% of the pharmaceuticals that are there. So I will happily engage in using blue honey for depression or what have you, right?
Yeah. All right, here we go. Get the next story. This one comes to us from Psych.org, and the headline there says cannabis oil found to be effective treatment for canine discoid lupus. Go ahead, Irene.
Erythematosus.
There we go. Erythematosus. I wasn't going to get that one. Go ahead.
Okay, a team of veterinarian students and scientists at the Federal University of Santa Catarina in Brazil, working with the Cannabis Development and Innovation Center, which is also in Brazil, has found that oral administration of cannabis oil to dogs can reduce the symptoms of discoid lupus erythematosus, DLE, which is a canine autoimmune-based skin disorder.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
In their study, go ahead.
Nope, all yours.
In their study published in the journal Frontiers in Veterinary Science, the group tested the effectiveness of the cannabis oil with a dog suffering from DLE after traditional treatments made no improvements. DLE is a disorder that affects the skin on the noses and ears of the dogs. It is characterized by inflammation, loss of hair and pigment, redness, and sometimes crusting ulcers. Currently, it is treated by giving the dogs cortisone steroids, drugs that calm inflammation, the same types of drugs given to humans with similar types of skin problems.
Yeah. In this new study, a 2-year-old mixed breed dog that was suffering from DLE was not responding to the standard treatment, so the research team tried a new approach, giving the dogs cannabis oil. Prior research has shown that different types of cannabis oil can reduce inflammation in both dogs and humans. Prior research has also failed to find any detrimental side effects. Thus, it was deemed safe to treat the dogs in the case with a mix of the oils.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Cannabis oils typically come in 2 different types, those based on cannabidiol, CBD, and those based on THC. Both have anti-inflammatory effects. The latter is the one responsible for the high, they say. Because cannabis oil has not been used before to treat DLE, the researchers tried a variety of oils with different levels of CBDs, THCs, or both. They eventually found a mixture of 3-to-1 CBD to THC worked best.
Initially, the dog was given a single drop orally once a day for 3 days to test any negative reactions, and upon finding none, they gave it a drop a day for several weeks and found signs of DLE disappearing. After a year, all symptoms were gone. To prevent new outbreaks, the dog was thereafter given smaller doses on a recurring basis. The researchers report no further recurrences.
Excellent.
Right? How cool is that? Now, just on a side note, my own bulldog, my Alapala bulldog, you've all met him. He ended up with this like bumpy nose stuff, which looked to me like some sort of psoriasis that we'd see on humans. And so I took my cannabis infused coconut oil, rubbed it on his nose. It was gone inside of a couple of days. He had a spot on his head. I did the same thing. Rubbed it on the top of his head, that little spot. And honestly, it that's what it looks like, is like eczema or psoriasis built up.
Yeah.
And the coconut infused cannabis oil, or the cannabis infused coconut oil, seems to really be doing the trick.
Good.
Yeah.
Another success story when it comes to cannabis.
Yes.
That's right. Duke's the patient. All
That's
right. Here we go on to the next story. This one comes to us from the National Post. The headline there says, "How Brian Mulroney Made Millions in an Industry He Once Strongly Opposed."
You know what? I promised I will keep my opinions to myself. Despite overseeing a government that introduced legislation that would have categorized cannabis at the same level as heroin, Mulroney said his view of the plant evolved in the years that followed his tenure as prime minister. In 2018, he joined the board of Acreage Holdings, imagine that, a cannabis company that's domiciled in BC, but operates in the US, interesting, with a focus on cultivating, processing, and dispensing cannabis.
Mulroney said, "It takes a while for certain people and certain things to catch up with reality, and great social advantages, as I've indicated, comes in waves. And this is one of the waves that I think will have Canada showing the way for the rest of the world," he says. He added, there have been a sea change in attitudes in the reality of the use of cannabis since his time in office, comparing to the growing acceptance of same-sex marriage.
Well, that's the way social advance occurs, he says. In the fullness of time, all these important matters become accepted. It's an important matter because he made a crap load of money. In Acreage, Mulroney joined a board that also counted former U.S. House Speaker John Boehner, former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld, and former IBM Chief Financial Officer Douglas Main amongst its members. Following his first year
at Acreage, a report from Bedford Consulting Group tallied Mulroney to be among the top paid directors in the cannabis sector, with a total compensation of $13,913,873, encompassing salary, bonuses, equity, and pension. $14 million.
Yeah. Now, while his exact duties with the company were unclear, he likely offered strategic guidance and experience in governance to support Acreage's growth and navigate the complex regulatory environment of the industry. Last August, Mulroney resigned from the board of directors along with the CEO, Kevin Murphy.
Mulroney is not the only former PM to enter the cannabis sector. John Turner, the 17th Prime Minister of Canada, whose 79-day tenure preceded Mulroney's reign, was on the board of Mulliboon Organics, a medical cannabis company. Turner said at the time that the Canadian government's behind it. I think Canadian people understand the merits of it, before adding that he personally did not partake.
Right. Well, not directly involved with any of the companies, former Prime Minister PM Kim Campbell has also been an advocate for Canada's cannabis industry, telling MJ Biz Daily in 2019 that the country's foray into legalization will expand the confidence that other countries will have to change their legislation.
$14 million for a year.
And we don't even really know what he did.
No. For a year.
He just helped.
Oh. Well, that included pension. You got a pension for a year, eh?
Unbelievable.
Well, these people get these things that's their incentive to go join them, right? 14 million. All right. On to the next story. This one from Marijuana Moment. Hopefully the jitters settle down. And it's Fetterman says excluding military from Biden's cannabis pardons is a mistake.
Senator John Fetterman says it's a mistake that President Joe Biden's cannabis pardons don't cover possession offenses under military code, arguing that cannabis should be broadly treated the same as alcohol under federal law. The senator said during an interview with Ask a Polls, Matt Laszlo last week that cannabis reform is one area where his position departs from the president, as he'd like to see the substance legalized and regulated like alcohol and tobacco products.
While the U.S. Army recently clarified in a branch-wide notice that cannabis possession violations under the military drug code weren't eligible under the president's pardon. There wasn't a new announcement from the White House about it. Was indicated in the question posed by Fetterman. My understanding, you pardon any federal charges of the cannabis possession. Well, and I would think that would include military people, like their citizens.
For whatever reason, I don't think it does. In any case, the senator took the opportunity to criticize the invitation.
So I'm not sure what's going on here. We'll find out as we read along. In any case,
in any case, I'm going to assume I just lost you there, Al. In any case, the senator took the opportunity to criticize the limitation. He says, I would urge him to reconsider that. I don't think it's helpful if you're willing to serve our nation in the military to be penalized by using a substance that is statistically much safer than any other legal kinds of things. I don't really understand the logic, truthfully, he says.
me.
There you are. I think marijuana or weed is no different than alcohol. The only difference is one's legal and one isn't, he says. One can ruin your career, and another one you can walk into a store and buy it and drink as much of it as you can and then show up in the morning, and that's not going to endanger your career. The senator added that the issue doesn't, of course, diminish my enthusiasm for Joe Biden, and we're not going to agree on every single issue, but this doesn't happen to be one that I do.
I think I'm back.
Good. So
I think I'm back, but I had to close off the story. It was yet again all those little I've never seen it this bad for just that. It's just for that particular
website.
Publishing. Website. Yeah.
So
and we've run them lots of times before.
That's right. Biden has faced questions over the limitations of his pardon actions, which cover people who violated federal possession offenses, including those that took place on federal property. Advocates would like to see that relief extended further to, for example, include people with nonviolent cannabis sale convictions, as well as immigrants and people who were punished for violating military code. Representative Barbara Lee, co-chair of Congressional Cannabis Caucus, told Marijuana Moment last week that the pardon should be extended all the way out, and any unintended or intended consequences of the war on drugs should be dealt with to repair any damage. From what I can tell here, everybody's agreeing. However, former Representative Ed Perlmutter told Marijuana Moment that he's been very pleased with Biden's clemency actions, arguing that the president has taken some pretty, in my opinion, bold steps. Fetterman, meanwhile, also said during the new interview that he personally does not use cannabis, despite his longstanding advocacy for legalization and frequent embrace of the cannabis culture, including during his time as Pennsylvania's lieutenant governor. No, I really don't use it, he said, but I don't use tobacco at all, but that should be legal. I don't drink very frequently, but it should all be legal. So it's the same kind of substance that it should be pure, safe, and legal, and allowing adults to partake because that's their right.
You can support legalization and be a non-consumer for sure.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So he's trying to bring it up, and he's trying to make it a part of the conversation. He says that they should be able to do that. The senator also led a letter to the Drug Enforcement Administration last month alongside Senator Elizabeth Warren that called on agency to fully legalize cannabis and answer questions about the agency's ongoing schedule. Also last month, Fetterman said he doesn't support Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's call for a crackdown on the nicotine product Zyn because it's a matter of freedom and personal choices, drawing parallels to reasons for supporting cannabis legalization.
Yeah, I've never heard of that product.
Myself neither. It's got to be an American thing. I'll look into it after. Ultimately, the senator has complained that his home state of Pennsylvania is falling behind other states, such as Ohio, that are enacting legalization while it remains prohibited for adult use in the Commonwealth. And so he's just basically saying what we've all been saying, it can be legalized in certain parts of the country in those states, but not on the whole. It's illegal. Like it's just
It's
illogical.
Well,
very
they're
illogical.
allowing the states to do it independently, and it would be
Yeah.
nice to see the federal government get caught up with the independent states that making these laws, because it just doesn't make sense to keep it federally legal. It affects so much, like
Yes.
just I can cross the border with prescription drugs.
Right.
Yeah, well, why couldn't the patient cross the border with the prescription cannabis?
Right. Or you have someone who is, having a nomadic year or what have you. For example, say Ashley, and there's many like her, going from coast to coast. You don't know, like in this state, you're legal. And by the time you get into the next state, you're not, and then you're legal. Like, where's the rationale there?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it has to be at the highest level and then bring it down according to the states, I think. But who am I?
All righty.
Opinion.
on our last news story of the day, and this comes to us from Cision. It says that it's a news wire. It says that Cantourage and Clever Leaves intensifies strategic partnership for distributing of medical cannabis in Germany. So this is a company that's helping the patients in Germany.
Yes. So in Berlin. So European medical cannabis leader Cantourage, GmbH, we've all heard of that, and Clever Leaves Holdings is a leading multinational operator and licensed producer of pharmaceutical grade cannabinoids, which have continued to intensify their strategic partnership for distribution of medical cannabis flowers throughout Germany.
Yeah. Irene,
Yes?
I'm not gonna continue with the story for it's just that I just noticed the date on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
All
I
right.
kind of saw that too, and I wasn't sure if that's when the first information came out or not. But this was back in 2022, guys.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a little old. I don't mind doing some news in the back, but I just realized it as we're going down there. That hang on, this is a little bit old. A little bit.
Right. And now we know that it is legal recreational now, or has it just become?
Well, yeah, they've passed. Yeah, they've passed.
Right.
It's in the process. Correct. It's it's in its early things.
So 2 years since medical.
Yeah.
To rec. We know that much.
No, yeah, it's good, and it's good that the medical access is there for everybody. There shouldn't be any question about it.
No.
And some countries have just been really hard on people. Even like Great Britain or the UK, however you want to call them, that it's been tough on people over there in order to get medical access to medical cannabis. And slowly but surely, the NHS has opened things up, but still, it's
it's slow and steady. This one's for those that can't, and for those that can, puff, puff, pass.
Puff, puff, puff. That's right. Exactly. All right. Anything offhand before I sign us off?
No, I just want to remind everybody about Can Expo coming up March 22nd to the 24th at Toronto. I can see the building. Help me here.
The Inner Care building. Inner Care building. It's on the exhibition grounds.
Right. That was a brain fart. Sorry, guys. That's what brain farts are.
Right beside the Princess Gates when you come in.
That's right. It's going to be awesome. Tune in to cbgtv.com because we've been doing a lot of the behind the scenes interviews and with the exhibitors and speakers and organizers. So you get to know a little bit about what's going on. So when you do get down there, you know what you can expect. I mean, Camp Canna. That's going to be so cool. There's just so many things. I mean, a bazillion things are racing through my mind. So yeah, check out Can Expo. Go to CBGTV.
All right. From the Legacy420.com news desk, that's the news for today. We hope you found it educational and informative. Thanks to Legacy420.com, the Camelford Lifestyle Shop, and Limestone City Hydroponics. Just so you know, they helped me out with my microgreens. Did a great job. Thanks, guys.
I saw those pics. That's awesome. Limestone Hydroponics in Kingston.
All right. Catch your next broadcast this Thursday at 10 a.m. And just so you know, Glenn is returning. He's back from the island. He's back from the south. And we will see you all then. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network, here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education, here at paceradio.net.